first evolved tower to be added to Tower Defense Simulator. But first, you need to get the Minigunner Tower to level 20 before you can get the Juggernaut Tower, which you need to spend 15,000 coins and 9,000 or 6,000 gems. I forgot which one, how much for the Juggernaut Tower, but a certain amount of gems for the Juggernaut Tower. And then, to actually upgrade the Juggernaut Tower to max level for all levels, you need to be level 20 for the Juggernaut Tower. And as you can see here, I don't have all of the levels yet, but I can spend 960 Robux, 1,200 if you don't have Roblox Plus. But I'm not going to do that, because there is a very easy way to bypass this. You just go into sandbox mode, and the Juggernaut Tower has all of its levels unlocked, which is great for us, because I'm just going to review it as is. Now, worth mentioning that the statistics are different from the version that was before the Hardcore Rework update, and that's because the developers have fixed the rate of fire bug in Tower Defense Simulator, so they've had to mess around with the fire rates of the Juggernaut Tower, but they've also changed some of its statistics, like its damage. I will be doing a separate review of all of the other towers in Tower Defense Simulator, because they have all changed. Literally every single one of them. It might be a minor fire rate change, but some of them have had like their damages changes, like do the Assassin Tower. Anyways, we'll go to the Juggernaut Tower, and as you can see here, it has a very large placement footprint. Yes, that's right. It has the largest placement footprint, I believe, in Tower Defense Simulator. Much larger than the Minigunner, which is its evolved version. So as you can see here, it's almost double. But as a consequence of this, the Juggernaut Tower is actually visibly larger than the other towers, as you can see. Here, it's much taller as well. It doesn't seem as such, but you can very easily see this if you were to compare the height of the Cowboy Tower and the Juggernaut Tower, which the Cowboy, by the way, is like an average size tower. It's not like smaller than anything else. So very similar to the Minigunner Tower, the Juggernaut Tower does have a rev up time, and the DPS, which is considered here for the Juggernaut Tower, it's not considering this rev up time, so do bear that in mind. Yes, towers have a DPS counter now for Tower Defense Simulator. As you can see, I also get a 15 plus bonus on the range, because obviously I have the skill tree enabled, which I probably shouldn't for the purposes of this video. And the major drawback with the Juggernaut Tower is the fact that you can only place down just one of them, even if you were to have, say, the capacity of getting down another one. But the one thing is, you can actually hack the evolved Juggernaut, as it's called. I don't know why it uses its long name, and you can have another clone of it, but you can only have one clone of it because of the way that it works. Basically, you can't clone above the placement limit of the Juggernaut Tower, and because it's one, you can only have one clone of the Juggernaut Tower. So then, it costs $8,000 to have placed down for 0.15 fire rate, 17.5 range, and 9 damage for a DPS of 60. Now, cost efficiency isn't shown off here, but is 133.33, which isn't too bad. Its closest comparison is something like the Golden Minigunner, and the lowest cost efficiency, lower cost efficiency being better, is at level 1 for the Golden Minigunner, where it has 140.62. But the Juggernaut Tower can see hidden enemies immediately when placed down, and in addition to this, the Juggernaut Tower does have a larger range of 1.5 more. But with the Golden Minigunner, you can spam it, whereas for the evolved Juggernaut Tower, you can only have one placed down, which is the major drawback. So then, at level 1, the Juggernaut Tower decreases its fire rate from 0.15 to 0.12. The developers, when you buff it with the Commando Tower, by the way, it does show a minus number here, see? Minus 10%. So decreased fire rates being better for the tower, by the way. So this means that the DPS for the Juggernaut Tower is now 75, and the cost efficiency is now 141.33. So much worse cost efficiency, and we're encroaching on the Golden Minigunner here. But then, as for level 2, the 30-second Spec Ops, we're just mentioning 32 again, gosh darn it, the range increases from 17.5 to 20, and the damage has increased from 9 to 14. In addition to this, the rev up time has changed from 2 to 1.8 seconds. Again, DPS does not consider rev up time for the Juggernaut Tower, but you'll see in practice that the DPS is slightly lower because of this, but it can be buffed by other means, for example. But the new DPS counter does account for a tower buffing it. So as you can see here, the Commando Tower is now buffing the Juggernaut Tower. It is now 0.1 fire rates, and the DPS is now clearly shown off here. So I guess that's good. It can clearly show off, but obviously the rev up time isn't considered as part of this. But the DPS for the Minigunner Tower at this level is now 116.67 for a total cost of 17,050. The cost efficiency is now 146.14, so it's not terrible, but it's not certainly the best in Tower Defense Simulator. Golden Minigunner is better. You can spam it though, but this is a singular tower that you're funneling all of your funds through. Then we get to level 3, which costs $17,200. For this, the range increases from 20 to 22, and the damage increases from 14 to 28. This means that the total price is now $34,250. The DPS is now 233.33, which is already quite high. And the cost efficiency is 146.39. And then we split off our parts. Now, do bear in mind that for the next Juggernaut levels, these are the only levels you can get if you haven't upgraded your Juggernauts through the levels. We'll go with the top path first, since that is obviously listed first. So it's Fortifier, $35,000. Its fire rate increases from 0.12 to 0.15, so that's worse. It shoots slower. And the damage, though, has increased from 28 to 65. More importantly, however, is the Fortify ability that the Juggernaut gets here. So the Juggernaut unlocks a secondary range in which towers receive reduced stun and debuff times. Fortify radius is 10, and the Fortify debuff time reduction is 25%, and the rev up time has decreased from 1.8 seconds to 1.2 seconds. And there is a very obvious shield if a tower is being fortified by the Juggernaut Tower, as it appears here. So it doesn't make a tower completely immune to something like the new Void Titan, or any stuns, or any frozen abilities, but it does reduce the effectiveness of these stuns. So if it was 10 seconds previously, which I don't think there's an ability that lasts as long as 10 seconds, it's now only 7.5 seconds. So 2 more seconds of a tower attacking. I want to say this ability is mind-breaking, but it is something. So the DPS is now 433.33, total cost 69,250, and the cost efficiency is now 159.81. Then for level 5A, it is now 55,000 to upgrade it. It gets flying detection at this level. The range increases from 22 to 26. The damage increases from 65 to 120, and the Fortify radius increases from 10 to 13. So that's a genuinely large radius for the Fortify. So that's quite good. And as you can see right now with the Juggernaut Tower, its DPS is quite high, 800, but the total cost is 124,250. So the cost efficiency is 155.31. So it's not too bad cost efficiency, especially for its price. But, you know, spamming the Golden Minigunner could be better in certain circumstances, especially if you have like the DJ booth and the Commander in range. But obviously, when it comes to something like the Medic, for example, which can only buff a certain amount of towers, you may want to target it with the Juggernaut Tower, and it's much better than just spamming Golden Minigunners because you'll need a lot of Medic towers. For level 6A, it's $100,000. Right, okay. But for this, the fire rate decreases again from 0.15 to 0.12, and the damage increases from 120 to 160. The Fortify debuff time reduction is increased from 25% to 30%, and the rev up time has decreased from 1.2 to 1. Not included in the DPS though, but as you can see, the DPS is now 1,333.33. Total cost though, quite high, 224,250. And it means that the cost efficiency is 168.19. So not too great. It's starting to get to the drop-off point where the Juggernaut Tower, you're just investing into it because you don't have anything to actually use. But then finally, Hammerhead level, $150,000. And the only change is to its damage, 160 to 240, not even a doubling of this. The Fortify radius does increase slightly from 13 to 14, but the main point here is the Fortify debuff time reduction is decreased from 30% to 50%, which is genuinely quite good if the original enemy that stuns like towers, it stuns for a long period of time. I'm thinking more like the Void Reaver, for example. Now, DPS-wise, we're looking at 2,000 DPS, which is not too bad, not too shabby, which means that the cost efficiency for the Juggernaut Tower is 187.125 at level 7A, which is not terrible, I must say. It's certainly worse than spamming a load of golden minigunners, but for a tower that you can sink like more than $250,000 into, if you have that amount, which you might do at the end of, say, hardcore mode, then it is genuinely a good tower to invest into. But we have the other Juggernaut path, and if the top path is seen as a tower buff and also for flying detection, the bottom path is more for lead detection, because at level 4B you get lead detection, and the fire rate decreases from 0.12 to 0.1, and the damage increases from 28 to 50. But here you get experimental weaponry, where the Juggernaut equips an experimental multi-barrel minigun with special rounds that deal extra damage towards boss enemies, and the boss damage multiplier is 40%. So this default DPS can be quite misleading, especially if it's towards a boss. So the total price, as you can see, 74,250. The DPS is 500, so standard cost efficiency is around 148.5. You'll notice that for the Juggernaut Tower at these levels, in the B levels instead of the top levels, they have worse cost efficiency on regular enemies than the top path. But this is accounted for by the fact that the boss cost efficiency is 106.07, which is very good because the boss DPS is around 700. And that's obviously due to the boss multiplier that's applied to the Juggernaut Tower, a 40% buff. So towards bosses, the Juggernaut Tower on the boss path, very good. But towards other enemies, not so good. I mean, it does have lead detection at this level, so, you know, in hardcore mode where you may suffer from lead enemies, might be better to use the bottom path, or you could have someone use the top path with the Juggernaut Tower if they brought it along as well. But do bear in mind, it is a very expensive tower. Yeah, look at that spam. Wait, that's a boss enemy, but maybe the chains boss has like defense, which is why it wasn't being damaged by the 40% that I would expect it to. Yeah, it does. See? Okay, so the defense still applies to the Juggernaut Tower, so it's not a complete cop-out. Okay, fair enough. And it was dealing like 36 damage towards the chained boss without the boss multiplier. So it does seem to be the case where if the boss multiplier applies towards enemies that have like boss in mid-game, but after that it doesn't. So it's not like, for example, if the enemy is called like the chained boss, then it's not going to damage it by 40%. No, it has to have the modifier. So that's the purple health bar here, which indicates that it is a boss. Next level is $95,000 bigger guns. So for this level, your damage increases from 50 to 85, and the range increases from 22 to 26. For this, the new DPS is now 850, boss DPS is 1190, the cost efficiency is 199.12, which is worse than every single top level cost efficiency, but the boss cost efficiency is 142.23. Then the next one is titanium armor for level 6B. So for this, the damage increases from 85 to 135, and the range increases from 26 to 28. So the new DPS values 1350, and the boss DPS is 1890. But the cost efficiency is now 214.26, normal cost efficiency, boss cost efficiency 158.04. And then finally, $250,000 upgrade, right? The fire rate decreases slightly from 0.1 to 0.09. Okay, fair enough. The damage increases from 135 to 200. Okay, fair enough. And the rev up time decreases from 1.8 to 1.6. Okay, so this level does have more DPS than the top level, but it costs like nearly double, right? So it has 2,222.22 DPS, and the cost is 539,250. So the regular cost efficiency is 242.66, but towards bosses, this Juggernaut Tower has 3,111 0.11 DPS. So cost efficiency is 173.33. So it's not great. It's not the best that's seen in Tower Defense Simulator. I would expect maybe 170, 160 DPS, especially towards the later levels. And obviously, it's only really useful towards bosses. But this is such a high DPS tower that if you know you're going to sink a lot of money into your tower, especially in like Frost mode, especially in Hardcore mode, maybe even in Voidcore mode, if you get that much money, then the Juggernaut Tower could be for you, especially towards bosses. I can very easily see someone using this for Hardcore mode or even Voidcore mode for the extra damage that it will deal towards the Void Reaver. It's genuinely a very good tower to use if you have like a limited amount of towers to place down. Like for example, in Void Core mode, I believe the maximum towers you can place down is either 25 or 20. I don't know if skills are enabled there, but if one of those towers occupied is your Juggernaut Tower, that is very clearly a very good tower to place down, because your golden minigunners, they're not going to come close to the amount of DPS that the Juggernaut Tower can deal towards bosses, especially 20 of them. Now, in solo mode, it might be the opposite, because you can place down a lot more golden minigunners and you may be able to spread it out. And the drawback with the Juggernaut is that it won't be able to see flying enemies. Well, actually, the Golden Minigunner can't see flying enemies, but you may want to place down another tower which can see flying enemies or lead enemies. In this case, the Juggernaut Tower is stuck between choosing between flying enemies or lead enemies in solo mode. You can't choose both. But the one good thing is that it can see hidden enemies at all levels. So, the Juggernaut Tower, it's extremely expensive, but it does have a high amount of DPS. I would recommend it. It's going to be very tactical on when you actually use the Juggernaut Tower. I wouldn't recommend it completely in all circumstances, like in easy mode. Very obviously, you're not going to earn $500,000 just to place down the Juggernaut Tower. Very easily, in easy mode game modes, where you don't earn that much money in comparison to hard mode game modes, especially towards the late game, then the Juggernaut Tower may not be the best tower to use. But if you know you're in a game mode where you have a lot of money left over, then the Juggernaut Tower is the tower for you, if you can utilize it correctly, because $500,000 just to upgrade the Juggernaut Tower to max level, yeah, quite expensive. And do bear in mind that these levels, these later levels where you may want to use or utilize the Juggernaut Tower for its boss damage capabilities, it's locked out until you beat these game modes, until you have the enough tower EXP for the Juggernaut Tower. So it might be the case where you just want to place down the Juggernaut Tower just to grind out the levels, and you may want to use something else like the Golden Minigunner in solo mode. That's up to you. Its earlier levels may have some utility, especially in outside of like Frost mode, for example, but can't reassure you on that. The Accelerator Tower. Now, I have to mention that the update log doesn't actually mention the complete changes to the Accelerator Tower, which is great, because if you'll notice, when you upgrade the Accelerator Tower, it doesn't have the no stun and no freeze immunity anymore. Yeah, the developers have removed no freeze and no stun from the Accelerator Tower. But to compensate for this, at earlier levels, the Accelerator Tower does have a shorter charge up time, but the charge up time at the earlier levels is still about 10 business days, as you can see here. So at level 0, the change is that the cooldown, the fire rate has increased from 0.22 to 0.25. This is just because of the rate of fire bug fix. At level 2, it's mentioned as red in the update log, but don't believe that, obviously. Green is meant to be. The charge up time has decreased from 6.5 seconds to 5.5 seconds. That's good. Level 3, the charge up time has decreased from 5.5 seconds to 4 seconds. At level 4, the charge up time has decreased from 5.5 seconds to 2.5 seconds. So, I don't know, I think level 4 is now more usable, I guess, because it's only 2.5 second charge up time. And the cooldown has increased from 0.15 to 0.175. Obviously, that is because of the rate of fire bug fix. Meanwhile, for level 5, there is actually a rework of this, so the total cost has decreased by 5,000. The upgrade itself has decreased from 55,000 to 50,000. Charge time has decreased from 5.5 seconds to 1.5 seconds, so that's very good. And then the fire rate has increased from 0.1 to 0.125. That's just to account for the rate of fire bug. So, yes, the Accelerator Tower goes back to what it was before the Shock and Awe update, in the sense that it has a very short cooldown time, except for like levels 0 all the way up until level 2, I would argue. Maybe even level 3, because it's about 4 seconds. But it no longer has stun immunity and freeze immunity. So if you want to protect the Accelerator Tower with something like the Medic, that is now pretty much advised, given that it can be stunned by bosses now. Although do bear in mind that because of its short cooldown time, it is now effectively better And I would argue much better, because the placement for the Accelerator Tower now no longer really matters. So even if, right, the Accelerator Tower were to attack these enemies here, it will now no longer take 6 business days to actually attack these enemies, and effectively meaning that this range hit bit here, that is now useless, but now it's useful because of the charge time changes. Right, then as for the Accelerator, it's mostly just rate of fire changes. So 0.2 to 0.22 changes for the fire rate for level 0, level 1. At level 3, the cooldown has increased from 0.12 to 0.15, but there is no change at level 2, meaning that effectively there is a buff at level 2 for its cooldown. At level 2, there is also the fire rate increase, which nerfs the Ace Pilot, but of course you got the DPS changes to that because of the rate of fire bug, so that's fine. Level 3, much the same, 0.12 to 0.15. Level 4, 0.12 to 0.15. All of that is fine. Meanwhile, at level 5, the developers have messed around, tinkered with the Ace Pilot a little bit. So they've added a 0.15 to 0.12 fire rate decrease upgrade at this level. Okay, that's good. But it's not mentioned in the update log. And the damage has decreased from 18 to 14. This means that the DPS of the Ace Pilot is only about 4 shorter than what it was previously with the rate of fire bug. So it's the same as it was before. It's just the developers have achieved this through different means. Oh, and you'll notice that when it comes to the Ace Pilot, yeah, its bomb DPS is mentioned as 30, and this is included in the total DPS for the Ace Pilot. Next, the Assassin Tower, and there's barely any changes to it. There's barely even any fire rate changes to it. So, I don't know, a slight buff when it comes to the Assassin Tower because of the lack of changes, except at level 3 and level 4. So, at level 3, there's been a 1 damage decrease from 14 to 13, woe be me, and at level 4, there is a 2 damage decrease from 35 to 33. So, effectively, the Assassin Tower had sort of become good when it comes to its level 0 to level 2 damage, because the fire rate hasn't changed at all. But the damage has changed at level 3 and level 4 to compensate for this. So level 3 and level 4, no changes in comparison to the previous update, but level 0 to level 2, I guess there is a slight buff. Also, the Whirlwind slash ability for the Assassin Tower visually doesn't appear, at least for the crew skin. You'll notice that this is actually a reoccurring issue with a lot of these towers. There's some visual glitches. We'll get to the Hacker Tower eventually. And then we have the Brawler Tower. This is the first tower alphabetically that has actually received a major rework of sorts, because every single level has changed, and these changes cannot be attributed to just the rate of fire bug. So at level 0, the reposition cooldown has increased from 20 to 30. The reposition level unlock has changed from 3 to 4, which it was previously before the changes made to the Juggernaut updates. Interesting. At level 0, the changes are that its cooldown has decreased from 1.2 to 1. Do bear in mind that this is now a more significant buff because of the rate of fire bug fix, but the damage has decreased from 6 to 5. I think this is a slight buff purely because the less damage but lower fire rate a tower deals means that it's better against low health enemies. At level 1, the upgrade price has increased from 150 to 200. The cooldown has decreased from 0.8 to 0.6. Damage has decreased from 6 to 5, and the range has increased from 6 to 6.5. At level 2, the upgrade cost has increased from 750 to 1,200. The final hit cooldown has decreased from 0.75 to 0.6. So after the Brawler Tower deals its final hit, it now only waits for 0.6 seconds instead of 0.75 seconds, which is the same for its fire rate, by the way. It's decreased by the same amount. The damage has increased from 15 to 21 for the final hit. Damage has also increased from 10 to 14, and the range has increased from 6 to 6.5. At level 3, the upgrade cost has increased from 1,500 to 2,500. Final hit cooldown and cooldown itself, so that's the fire rate, has decreased from 0.6 to 0.5. The final hit damage has increased from 33 to 48. Knockback force has increased from 20 to 24. The damage has increased from 22 to 24, and the range has increased from 6.25 to 6.5. As for level 4, the upgrade cost has increased from 3,000 to 3,500. The ground smash radius, so that's the relocation ability, which has been moved to this level, by the way, that has decreased from 10 to 7.5, although you'd be hard pressed to notice, I'll be honest. The knockback force has increased increased from 24 to 28. The fire rate has decreased from 0.6 to 0.5. So I assume that's the same for the final hit cooldown. And the range has increased from 6.5 to 7. And then finally, at level 5, there is a upgrade cost decrease at this level from 8,250 to 7,777, 7777. But overall, a total cost increase for level 5. For this, the final hit damage has decreased from 111 to 100. Knockback force has decreased from 35 to 32. The cooldown has decreased from 0.5 to 0.4. The damage has decreased from 66 to 50, and the range has increased from 7.25 to 8, which is actually, that's quite a long range, I can't lie. I guess this makes the Brawler a better mid-game tower to use. I will say that earlier on, it has slightly less utility because its upgrades have gotten more expensive early on. But I will say it is still a very good early game tower to use. Less so of a late game tower now because it slightly deals less DPS at a max level, even accounting for the rate of fire bug. But I guess for most uses for the Brawler tower, which is really early game, I guess it is an alright tower to use. Then we have the Commando tower. So the changes here: at level 0, the burst cooldown fire rate has increased from 0.2 to 0.225, same for the cooldown. And at level 1, the cooldown fire rate has increased from 0.14 to 0.17. Obviously, these are accounting for the DPS changes for the rate of fire bug. But at level 2, instead of changing the fire rate, it seems like they've changed the damage. So at level 2, damage has decreased from 8 to 7. At level 3, damage has decreased from 16 to 14. And at level 4, damage has decreased from 28 to 23. So overall, the Commando remains relatively similar to what it was previously. Interesting that the missile DPS is counted here, which is cool, but the Brawler's reposition DPS isn't counted, which I guess is fair enough. Does the Assassin Tower? No, so it's Whirlwind's damage isn't accounted for DPS as well. Okay, also I kind of lied. Not every single tower has actually changed in this update. The Archer Tower, being an A tower, should have changed and should be in the update log, but the Arch Tower has not changed at all, which, because it's not changed at all and the rate of fire bug has been fixed in this update, means that the Arch Tower has been slightly buffed in terms of its real output of DPS, even though the calculation is relatively the same. The same also applies to the Biologist Tower in terms of its units. They have been slightly buffed in terms of its DPS, expected DPS, because of the rate of fire changes, and the Biologist Tower hasn't changed at all. So buff to the Biologist Tower. The Commander Tower hasn't changed in this update at all. I think the APCs that it spawns in haven't changed as well. I'll have to quickly check that. Oh no, the APCs, yes, it has changed. So the Gunner APC, its damage has decreased from 8 to 7. For whatever reason, the units are at the end, which is very unhelpful. Again, this is probably to account for the rate of fire change, but other than that, it doesn't look like there's any other changes. It doesn't look like there's a change to its missile APC, so slight buff to the missile APC and a slight buff to the tower itself. I do wonder how DPS is calculated for the Commander Tower, because obviously it's not always attacking. So when it comes to the Biologist Tower, DPS isn't even bothered calculating for this, because I guess it was too complex for the system to do. The Archer Tower. So, I wonder if the fire DPS is calculated for this. No, it's not. That's weird. Explosive DPS is accounted for this. Why not flames? Like, surely the flame arrow should be accounted for the DPS if the explosive arrow is. The shock arrow, I mean, I don't think the shock arrow actually has any additional DPS, so that's fine. So, yeah, as you can see, explosive total DPS 85, but flame... Okay, so you just have to switch to explosive, then back to flame for it to actually show up. As you can see here, burn DPS is 1454. Okay, so that's fine. Slight buff to the Archer and the Biologist Tower because of no changes and the rate of fire bug fix. Do bear in mind that, yeah, burn DPS, it shows the burn immunity, which may be confusing if you're a regular tower defense simulator, if you see this on like the molten enemies. And then when it comes to the Commander Tower, yeah, the DPS is shown as if the Commander Tower itself is attacking all of the time. So as you can see, at max level, the DPS for the Commander Tower is 83.33, where in actuality, the DPS for the Commander Tower is closer to 27.78 if you're using the Call to Arms ability for 10 seconds over a period of 30 seconds. So that can be a little bit inaccurate for the Commander Tower. That's how we used to calculate the DPS for the Commander Tower, but someone changed it on the wiki. And obviously the DPS from the support caravans are not included within that, so do bear that in mind. Gunner APCs, as I've mentioned, damage has decreased from 8 to 7, but no changes to the missile APC, so buff. Slight buff though. Right then, so next we have the Cowboy Tower, and it seems like many people don't like these changes to the Cowboy Tower. However, there is very good reason for why these changes have been made to the Cowboy Tower. So the limit for the Cowboy has increased from 6 to 12. In case you didn't know, before the Juggernaut update, the Cowboy also used to have a limit of 12. Many people preferred that, so if many people are consistent, they would like this rebalance changed to the Cowboy Tower to what it was previously. But not that many people agree. So the spin time has increased from 1.5 seconds to 2 seconds. That is mentioned as a buff in the update log, but it's actually a nerf. The fire rate has increased from 0.55 to 1, but the damage has increased from 2 to 3. So that's a rebalance of sorts, considering the rate of fire bug fix as well. The income, though, has increased from 20 to 30, and the price to place it down has increased from 450 to 550. Range has decreased from 15 to 13. At level 1, the cost has increased from 150 to 200. The fire rate has increased from 0.45 to 0.9. The damage has increased from 2 to 3. And the income has increased from 20 to 30. Meanwhile, at level 2, the cost has decreased from 850 to 600. So it kind of cancels out the previous upgrade cost increases. The fire rate has increased from 0.45 to 0.9. The damage has increased from 4 to 5. The income has increased from 40 to 50, but its range has decreased from 17 to 15. So these changes so far, they are a rebalance to not only account for the fact that the Cowboy, its limit has increased from 6 to 12, but also to account for the rate of fire bug. This does mean that individually, each Cowboy, I think, is weaker, even accounting for the rate of fire bug before this update. But you can have more of them, which I guess is the reason why these changes have been made. Meanwhile, at level 3, the upgrade cost has decreased from 3,000 to 2,000, but the damage has decreased from 14 to 10, and the income has decreased from 75 to 45. Range has also decreased from 19 to 17.5. At level 4, the upgrade cost has decreased from 5,500 to 3,000. Fire rate has increased from 0.25 to 0.3. The damage has decreased from 14 to 10. The income has decreased from 150 to 125, and the range has increased at this level, interestingly, from 19 to 20. And then at level 5, there's another mentioning of this 7777. Don't know why. So the upgrade cost has decreased from 12,500 to 7777. The fire rate has increased from 0.25 to 0.35. The damage has decreased from 28 to 24. The income has decreased from 250 to 185. And the range has decreased from 21 to 20. So overall, the Cowboy has been nerfed on an individual basis, but overall you can have more Cowboys. So just take into account that if you want to, say, use the Cowboy for other game modes. You are not limited to just 6 Cowboys just generating cash. The Cowboy, I mean, the fact that it's weaker DPS-wise, it's just back to what it was before the Juggernaut update, I'll be honest. Many people prefer that, but there's a lot of complaints, so anyone will complain about the Cowboy Tower now. You will be glad to know, though, that not that many changes have been made to the Crook Boss Tower. So, at level 0, the range has increased from 15 to 16.5. Yeah, there's no changes to the fire rate or damage at this level. Weird. Same for level 1, range has increased. At level 2, damage has decreased from 25 to 24. That could be on account of the rate of fire bug, though. And the range has increased from 17.5 to 19. Very cool. The level 3 changes are that its fire rate has increased from 0.18 to 0.2. and the damage has decreased from 25 to 24, and at level 4 the damage has decreased from 45 to 36. So level 0 to level 3, it's just what the Crook boss was DPS wise before the rate of fire bug was fixed. As for the Crook boss goons, there are some changes, so 0.18 to 0.2 for the goon 2, and damage has decreased from 6 to 5. That's to be expected for the rate of fire bug. As for goon 3, it's changed from 6 to 5, and there are golden changes to it, but I'll talk about that later. There is, interestingly, no changes to the goon 1, so that is a slight buff. It's just that the goon 2 and the goon 3, they've just slightly changed to account for the rate of fire bug. That's all good. But interestingly, for the DJ booth, there is only one change for this, apparently, according to the update log, and it's the fact that the damage at level 3 has increased from 20 to 25. It's not like the DG booth, right, has a rate of fire bug to be actually concerned about. It's just that the only change that has been made to the DJ booth is level 3, damage increase 20 to 25. Don't know why. I can only suggest that maybe it's to do with hardcore mode and to do with like the balloons, or even what are they, like the voids, floating enemies, whatever. Maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know. Then, as for the Demoman, this actually has had a rebalance change. So at level 0, the damage has increased from 6 to 8. No changes to fire rate, but the price has increased from 5,500 to 7,000. That is to be expected of like the changes to the damage, but also to the fire rate effectively decreasing and it being a buff. At level 1, the upgrade cost has increased from 225 to 250, damage increased from 6 to 8. Level 2, cost has increased from 800 to 950, explosion radius increased from 5.25 to 6, and the damage has increased from 12 to 15. At level 3, the upgrade cost has increased slightly from 2,325 to 2,500. The explosion radius has increased from 5.25 to 6, and the damage has increased from 25 to 30. And at level 4, the upgrade cost has increased from 5,750 to 6,000. The fire rate has decreased, interestingly, from 1.3 to 1.2, and the range has increased from 15.5 to 16. So I think these are minor buffs to the Demoman. I guess when it came to the rate of fire bug, the developers saw an opportunity to slightly rework the Demoman to account for this and to be slightly better. So that's all good. Right then, so next is the Elf Camp Tower. No changes to the amount of Elf Tower camps that you can place down, and interestingly enough, no changes from level 0, because all that appears here is the regular elf. But as you can see, if there's a countdown for, say, the units, it now properly shows up the actual unit here. So actually, that's a pretty good change. I should have also probably mentioned that for the Crook boss. No changes to the Snowballer elf, so slight buff there because of the lack of changes. But when it comes to the Cannoneer elf, there are no changes to that, nor the Bomber elf. Okay, slight changes there as well. But it's when you get to the Gunner elf where things start to change. So funnily enough, the Guardian elf is internally called the Warrior elf, not the Guardian elf. So that's weird. But the changes here is that for the Gunner elf, its damage has decreased from 5 to 4. That's just to account for changes made to the rate of fire bug, even though that's a slight overcompensation. That's whatever. The Warrior Elf, its damage has decreased from 28 to 27, so that's just a slight decrease. But overall, same as before because of the rate of fire bug. And then for max level, no changes to the Ripped Elf, so slight buff there. The Gift Bomber, its damage has decreased from 150 to 148, so that change is only made for in respect to the rate of fire bug. That's fine. The Gunner Elf, that's damage has decreased from 7 to 6, so that's just in regards to the rate of fire bug as well. And the Warrior Elf, that's damage has changed from 42 to 40. So Elf Camp changes, usually just for the rate of bug change. But then slight buffs to the elves that haven't changed, such as the Warrior Elf, which is always good. But then next we have the Engineer Tower, and funnily enough, the Engineer Tower, no changes have been made to the tower itself, which is very cool. So there is a slight buff when it comes to the Engineer Tower. It does have its rate of fire bug corrected, so in regards to that, that's just fine. However, do bear in mind that the DPS mentioned here is its gun DPS. It does not account for sentry DPS at any level. And there have been some changes to the sentries here. So, no changes to the first sentry that appears here, but there is a change to the rifle sentry. The fire rate has increased from 0.17 to 0.2, so that's just an account for a change for the rate of fire bug. Same for the Minigunner Sentry, that's changed from 0.12 to 0.15. And as for the War Machine Sentry, that's changed there is a fire rate increase from 0.1 to 0.125 and a slight explosion damage decrease from 75 to 60. So overall, changes to the Engineer Towers is just for the rate of fire bug changes. But I will mention that the explosion damage for the War Machine Sentry has been nerfed, probably to account for hardcore mode. And as you can see, despite these sentries appearing for this engineer here, or one of these engineers, it's not accounted for in DPS, so do bear that in mind. Alphabetically, next is the Executioner Tower, and there is no change to this tower, meaning that there is a slight buff on account of the rate of fire bug being fixed. Although, do bear in mind that of all of the towers in Tower Defense Simulator to have fire rate, the Executioner Tower is perhaps the least affected because its fire rate is more as a suggestion, because it all really depends on whether its axe returns in that time. So it's more effective by the amounts of time that the axe is in the air rather than its fire rate. So take the changes made to the Executioner Tower with a pinch of salt. But here are two towers that have definitely not changed in this update. The first is the Farm Tower. Obviously, this hasn't changed at all. It doesn't have a fire rate to speak of, nor does it damage anything, so that's fine. Except, obviously, with the Harvester Tower. Not sure if tick is accounted for in the rate of fire bug, so actually, technically, the farm has been slightly buffed in terms of its thorns dealing damage, but you'll be hard-pressed to notice any changes to the Farm Tower. And the same can be said for the Firework Technician, except I do think for the Firework Technician, there is actually no changes made to this tower. Like, the fireworks that come out of the Firework Technician is based on chance rather than on fire rate. So the Firework Technician and the Farm Towers are the first towers alphabetically to have not changed at all on account of the rate of fire bug being fixed or statistical changes made to the tower to account for those changes. The Gladiator Tower, however, that hasn't changed at all in this update, but it does have a swing rate to actually speak of, meaning that it has been slightly buffed in this update. Wouldn't say that it's anything cool, because it's not like the previous version of the Gladiator Tower, which we used in 2020, but, you know, it's fine. Gatling Gun. Interestingly, the update log only mentions the level 0 changes, when actually all of these changes were made from level 0 all the way until level 2. So what's changed here is that the fire rate has increased from 0.15 to 0.17. So yes, overall the Gatling Gun has been nerfed from level 0 to level 2. Oh wait, hang on a second. The developers have changed the Gatling Gun and not told us about it. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Right, so it looks like its damage changes actually from level 2 onwards. So at level 3, the damage for the Gatling Gun has been nerfed from 16 to 13. At level 4, the damage has been nerfed from 25 to 20. At level 5, the damage has been nerfed from 45 to 36. And at level 6, the damage has been nerfed from 85 to 67. Okay, so now I know it makes more sense. So the Gatling Gun performs exactly as it did before the rate of fire bug changes. So like the damage nerfs to the Gatling Gun, that's not really a nerf, it's just to compensate for what it was previously. But it's interesting that they haven't mentioned this in the update log, because I'm pretty sure I know either the developers forgot, which could be a genuine mistake, or they didn't want to face the backlash of people seeing that the Gatling Gun damage has been changed, even though it's the same as it was previously. Although many people want to see the Gatling Gun buffed, I don't know about these changes, dog. The Medic Tower. There have been some changes to the Medic Tower, despite the fact that the rate of fire bug obviously does not apply to the Medic Tower, because the Medic Tower cannot attack any enemies. But with that being said, there have been changes to it, which I guess is part of the rework. So the Ubercharge ability initial cooldown has been increased from 15 seconds to 30 seconds. The Ubercharge ability is this ability here. Previously, it would only be 15 seconds from the initial cooldown. This is now increased to 30 seconds. This is to prevent people from abusing the Medic Tower by placing it down, using its ability, selling it, and then placing it down again. You now need to wait the full 30 seconds as the regular Ubercharge ability dictates, so I guess you can't really abuse this in something like hardcore mode. The cooldown after the initial cooldown is 60 seconds, which is evidently quite longer. Anyways, at level 1, the upgrade cost has increased from 400 to 425, and the overheal limit has increased from 0 to 100. Yes, at this level, and at level 0 actually, the amount that the medic can overheal by is now 100, as you can see by my base health here. At level 2, the upgrade cost has slightly decreased from 675 to 650 to counteract the level 1 change. The health overheal limit has been increased from 5 to 100, and the health regen has increased from 5 to 10. Meanwhile, at level 3, the cost has increased from 2,700 to 2,950. And do bear in mind that for the previous levels, I said that the overheal limit was 100. Well, guess what? For level 3, it's now 10. Yes, for whatever weird reason, at level 3, the overheal limit has decreased by 90. And you can really see this if you were to do it again. If I were to do this game mode again, which is golden, and then start this again. So as you can see, my base health is 500. And then if I were to place down a medic to level 3 by turning my infinite money on, you'll notice that, yes, for whatever weird reason, by upgrading it to level 3, the overheal limit is now only 100. If I had other medic towers like level 0 and level 1 down, then the overheal limit would be back to 100. But for whatever weird reason, by upgrading the medic tower to level 3, it decreases the overheal limit to just 10. So as you'll notice here, it should go down to 10. Yes, so that's very, very weird. The reason why it's 30, by the way, is because I have 3 medics here, each with an overheal limit of 10. So it should be 300, obviously. So I should have like maybe 800 health. But this is just a weird glitch with just level 3, because at level 4, the overheal limit has increased to 100 again. So it's increased from 20 to 100. So I'm not sure why the developers looked at level 3, saw that it remained at 10, and was like, yep, we got to keep that in the game. So yeah, don't worry. The overheal limit has increased to 100 at level 4. So what, if I were to place down the maximum allowed amount of medic towers, which is 4 now, it effectively means that I can have 400 extra health with either a level 2 medic tower placed down or a level 4 medic placed down. Again, level 3, weird. Don't use it if you want to overheal your base. However, with that being said, the damage boost that's provided by the Ubercharge ability has been decreased from 30% to 27.5%, as you can see on this Crook boss here. In addition to this, the developers have increased the shield recharge speed from 4.5 seconds to 5 seconds. So I believe if a tower gets stunned, then its shield needs to be replenished. But then at level 5, the cost has decreased from 15,000 to 14,000 for the medic tower. The damage boost provided by the Ubercharge ability has decreased from 40% to 35%. The overheal limit is stated, apart from at level 3, increased from 50 to 100 at this level. The health regen, though, has decreased from 25 to 20, so you need 5 waves to get up to the max health regen for the medic tower. And the shield recharge speed has increased from 5 seconds to 4.5 seconds. Honestly, that's not too bad, and I guess the Ubercharge ability is to account for the rate of fire bug, but with that being said, when the medic targets a tower, such as the Crook boss here, the 15% fire rate buff is now a lot better in comparison to what it was previously because of the rate of fire bug fixes. So I'd say the medic tower has gotten better despite these changes, and obviously, yeah, you can overheal your base by now 400, which I guess could be good, but I'm not sure if that many people are really overhealing their bases, and it would help too much. 900 though, that's quite a lot. As for the Mercenary base, interestingly, the only changes made here are to the Rifleman. So at level 0 for the Rifleman, the damage has decreased from 6 to 5. Then at Mercenary base level 3, which is the Rifleman's level 1, the damage has decreased from 6 to 8. At level 2 for the Rifleman, which is level 6, I believe, for the Mercenary base, the damage has decreased from 18 to 17. So these changes to the Mercenary base at this level is purely from a rate of fire bug fix perspective. But interestingly, there's no other changes to the other towers, which interestingly I would have thought included like the Grenadier. So technically the Grenadier tower has received a slight buff in this update because of the rate of fire bug fix. And technically the Riot Guard as well, although many people were using the Riot Guard to actually just ram enemies rather than its damage of 1 fire rate. At least this is what the update log says. I wouldn't be surprised if there are actually shadow updates to the Mercenary base, which they haven't told us about, like with the Medic tower. As for the Militant tower, here it's just pure changes to the fire rate. rate. So at level 0, the fire rate has increased from 0.2 to 0.225, which is rounded down, by the way, in the statistics log here. That's incorrect. It's meant to be 0.225. At level 1, the fire rate has increased from 0.15 to 0.175. At level 2, the fire rate has increased from 0.15 to 0.175. Same at level 3, and at level 4 is the same as the previous levels. Despite these changes, though, the Militant Tower is slightly better than what it was before the rate of fire bug fix. So, you know, slight buffs despite these changes to the Militant Tower because of those changes. Then we have the military base. Now, obviously, because the Humvee 1 and Humvee 2 don't have fire rate to actually speak of, it means that the first change to the military base only comes from the Humvee 3. And the change here is that the fire rate has changed from 0.2 to 0.225, as you can see here. So barely a change. That's just to account for the rate of fire bug. And the tank, that's fire rate has increased from 0.2 to 0.225, again to account for the rate of fire bug. And then finally, for the railgun tank, that's fire rate has increased from 0.15 to 0.175. So overall, no changes to the military base. It performs as the same as it did before the rate of fire bug fix. Next, we have the Minigunner Tower, and this being a fast-firing tower, you would have expected this tower to have changed quite a lot because of the rate of fire bug fix. And indeed, that is the case. So at level 0, the fire rate has increased from 0.15 to 0.16, but interestingly, they have increased the range from 15 to 16. At level 1, they've decreased the cost from 400 to 350. The range has increased from 15 to 16. At level 3, the cost has decreased from 7,000 to 5,500, and the cooldown has increased from 0.1 to 0.12. And at level 4, the cost has increased from 15,500 to 17,000, which is to account for the level 3 cost decrease. For this, the fire rate has increased from 0.09 to 0.1. The damage has decreased from 15 to 14, and the range has increased from 20 to 21. So it looks like the range increases, they are slight buffs, but the other changes to the fire rate and at level 4, the damage, that is to account for the rate of fire bug fix. So overall, I think the Minigunner has received a slight buff. Next, we have the Mortar Tower, and the changes made to the Mortar Tower are none, but obviously because of the rate of fire bug fix, it means that the Mortar Tower has been slightly buffed. Although, with that being said, because the fire rate of the Mortar Tower is relatively slow in comparison to other towers, it's 2.75 at max level and 4 on the first level, it means that the rate of fire bug fix for the Mortar Tower is not a massive change. It's like maybe a 10 increase in DPS, which isn't too bad, but nothing to write home about. Now, interestingly, the Necromancer Tower has also changed in this update. I've talked about the level 2 glitch previously, but in this version of Tower Defense Simulator, the developers have fixed it, so no abusing the Hacker Tower and the Necromancer Tower here. However, the only stated changes to the Necromancer Tower itself is at level 4, where the damage has decreased from 30 to 28. But there have been changes to some of the Necromancer's units, not all of them. So for example, the Executioner Skeleton, that's not changed at all, so that has been slightly buffed, but the other changes are to the Skeleton Knight, where the damage has decreased from 90 to 87, and the Sword Skeleton, where the damage has decreased from 25 to 24, again because of the rate of fire bug fix. As for the Paintballer, there is no change to the Paintballer, which is good, but it's still a shit tower, I can't lie. I mean, I guess because it does have a fast fire rate at max level, 0.17, I guess it can be considered a buff. I'm not going to say that the Paintballer is anything worthwhile, though. Certainly, you shouldn't get it, especially in the context with the Demoman rebalance in this update. Interestingly, the Pursuit Tower has stated to only have had changes from level 0 to level 3. So from those levels onwards, I assume the top path and bottom path, they haven't changed, which is very interesting. I'll have to review that later on in a Shadow update video, because that doesn't seem right to me. Anyways, at level 0, the patrol cooldown has increased from 10 to 20. The speed of the Pursuit Tower has also decreased from 50 to 45. So, you know, those are barely any changes, but it does mean that if you were to relocate the Pursuit Tower, it would take slower to get to where you relocated it to. The fire rate has increased from 0.2 to 0.225, and the range has increased from 6 to 7. At level 1, the speed for the pursuit tower has decreased from 50 to 45. The cooldown has increased from 0.2 to 0.225, and the range has increased from 6 to 7. At level 2, the speed has decreased from 50 to 45. In fact, I'm just going to say 50 to 45 speed has decreased at all levels. The maximum amount of ammo that it has increased from 65 to 75, and the range has increased from 7 to 8. Meanwhile, at level 3, the cost has decreased from 5,000 to 4,750. Explosion damage has decreased from 45 to 30. Although in the game itself it says 35, and I'm more inclined to believe what the game says than what the update log says. So do bear in mind that this update log is probably inaccurate, and probably there's more changes to the pursuit tower that isn't mentioned in the update log. Next, the fire rate has increased from 0.15 to 0.175. Damage has increased from 10 to 12. Maximum ammo has increased from 65 to 75. And the range has increased from 7 to 8. And again, I'm not sure if there are any changes to 4B, 5B, or 4A and 5A. I assume there is, it's just that the update log doesn't tell us about it. And then we have the Pyromancer. So these changes to the Pyromancer, I assume, are all changes because of the rate of fire bug. So the fire rate at level 0 has increased from 0.25 to 0.275, and the range has increased from 8 to 9. Okay, so slight buff there. The level 1 change, 0.15 to 0.175. In fact, that's all of the changes at all of the levels for the Pyromancer tower, because it had the same fire rate for every single level. That's fair enough. At level 1, the range has increased from 10 to 11, and the same at level 2. So barely any changes to the Pyromancer tower. So with the Hacker tower, at level 3, the hologram tower lifetime has increased from 25 seconds to 30 seconds. Although, is that the case? Because in the upgrade description, it says 25 still. That's interesting. And the slowness has decreased from 17.5 to 15. Although this has been nerfed even more because of changes to the Hacker tower. It's been changed from 15 to now just 10. And at level 4, the hologram enemy EV has decreased from 0.725 to 0.675. The hologram tower lifespan has increased apparently here from 20 to 30 seconds, although again it's not stated in the log here, so I'll have to check if that's true for the Hacker tower. The slowness has decreased from 20 to 15, although that's further decreased down to 10, but the damage here has increased from 20 to 22, so all of that's good. Next, some serious changes to the Hallow tower, which I did not expect at all. So for the Hallow tower at level 0, the explosion radius has decreased from 3.5 to 3, but the damage has increased from 10 to 12. The price has increased from 450 to 500. Meanwhile, the level 1 cost has decreased from 350 to 300 to counteract the placement cost increase. The range has increased from 20 to 21, and the fire rate has decreased from 4.15 to 4. Meanwhile, all change for level 2. So, at this level, the upgrade cost has increased from 2,450 to 2,700. Explosion radius decreased massively from 5 to 3.5. The knockback has decreased from 12.5 to just 10. The rocket speed has increased from 40 to 45. Cooldown has decreased from 4.15 to 4. Damage has decreased slightly from 52 to 50. And the range has increased from 20 to 21. And then finally, at level 3, the upgrade cost has decreased from 7,500 to 7,270 to counteract probably the level 2 changes. The explosion radius has decreased from 6 to 5, the knockback has decreased from 15 to 12.5, and the damage has decreased from 180 to 150. So it just seems like a general rebalance of the Hallow tower. Not all of these changes can be explained by the rate of fire bug fix for this tower as well. And it wouldn't make any sense because it has a fire rate of 4, which is quite high. So it does look like between level 0 to level 2, I'm willing to entertain the fact that the Hallow may have been buffed. But at level 3, the Hallow certainly, I think, has been nerfed because of that damage decrease. Meanwhile, as for the Harvester tower, there is no stated changes to this. Although, with that being said, within the internal code for the Harvester tower, it does look like there are some changes, but the developers haven't announced it. So I'll have to make another shadow update video for the Harvester tower. And the same can be said for the Hunter tower. The Hunter tower has not had any changes in this update, although bear in mind that the Hunter Tower does have a high fire rate, about 1.8 at max level, which is even higher at level 0, 3.45 as you can see. So the Harvester Tower is not that affected by the rate of fire bug fix, but it is a slight DPS increase for the Hunter Tower. Now then, I'm going to skip straight to the Shotgunner Tower because the developers have moved it from starter back to intermediate. They keep flip-flopping the Shotgunner Tower between intermediate and starter depending on their mood. So the Shotgunner Tower has now reverted back into being a mid-game tower because of its removal to intermediate. Because of this, the coin cost for the Shotgunner Tower has increased from 450 to 850. So, I don't know. If I were you, I'd just wait for the Shotgunner Tower to become a starter tower again, buy it then, and then wait for it to become an intermediate tower again, I'll be honest. So, for the Shotgunner Tower, there is now a placement limit again because of its changes to becoming a mid-game tower. So, previously, it didn't have a placement limit. Now, it has a 9 placement limit. In addition to this, the placement cost has increased from 800 to 1,225. The spread has decreased from 100 to 10. Now, I'm not sure if that's just a calculation of how spread is calculated, but it does mean that the Shotgunner is less likely to miss its shots, I believe. Despite the fact that it's listed red in the update log, it's not meant to be red. The fire rate has increased from 1 to 1.2, and the range has increased from 7.5 to 8. Meanwhile, at level 1, the cost has increased from 300 to 640. Then the shot size, so that's the amount of bullets that it shoots out, has increased from 6 to 8. That's also the same at level 1, by the way. The spread has decreased from 40 to 10. The fire rate has increased from 1 to 1.2, and the range has increased from 7.5 to 8. Meanwhile, at level 2, the cost has increased from 1,200 to 1,550. The shot size has increased from 8 to 10, so it shoots out 10 bullets. The spread has decreased from 40 to 15. The fire rate has decreased from 1 to 0.85, and the range has increased from 9 to 9.5. At level 3, the upgrade price has increased from 3,400 to 6,000. The amount of bullets has increased from 8 to 10. The spread has decreased from 40 to 25, so it's less accurate. Okay, although in the game it says it's increased from 20 to 40, so I'm not sure what to believe, the update log or the game itself. I guess I'll have to make another video for that. The damage has increased from 5 to 7, the fire rate has increased from 0.8 to 0.85, and the range has increased from 9.5 to 11. And then finally, at max level for the Shotgunner Tower, the upgrade price has increased from 9,500 to 18,500. Oh dear. Alright, the shot size has increased from 9 to 12, and because the Firework Technician devised the amount of fireworks that the Shotgunner Tower can generate by 10, it means that technically speaking, the Shotgunner Tower is 1.2 times more likely to generate a firework from the Firework Technician than any other tower. Maybe people would abuse that, I'm not sure. The spread has increased from 30 to 40 at this level, but didn't it mention that there was a spread increase? Okay, so it's 15 to 25 at level 3, but then it says 20 to 40 at max level. Okay, I'm not sure what the benefits are of a larger max spread. Maybe it's just something to counteract the damage changes to the Shotgunner Tower. I don't know. The range has increased from 11 to 13.5. Damage has increased from 10 to 14. The fire rate has decreased from 0.8 to 0.75. So actually, the Shotgunner Tower has a pretty large range now. I've never seen this from a Shotgunner Tower previously. I wonder if towards the edge of its range, it becomes a way less accurate. I don't think so. 40 is still quite a low spread. And I do think there is some mid-game utility when it comes to the Shotgunner Tower. And actually, towards the late game, it might even have a lot of utility because of its DPS, 224. Now, it does have a slightly expensive upgrade cost, 27,915. But do bear in mind that the Shotgunner does have piercing bullets. So I can very easily see the Shotgunner being used as part of some strategies towards like the mid game, especially towards the late game. Now do bear in mind that there is a limit of 9 Shotgunner towers. So I can easily see this being like a beginner's or a noob's first high DPS tower, especially because it is still relatively cheap to purchase, 850. So maybe this is a tower to aim for if you don't have enough for, say, the Minigunner. But it should be supplemented by other towers, such as maybe the Militant Tower at this level. The Ranger Tower has received no changes in this update, and because of its high fire rate, it being 4.5 at level 3 and 8 at level 4, it means that the Ranger Tower, even if the rate of fire bug has been fixed for the Ranger Tower, it only has a slight increase in its DPS, so that's barely anything. I will mention though, the default DPS and the impact DPS is calculated for the max level Ranger, but this weirdly calculated. Impact DPS accounts for the max hits that the ranger can do, despite the fact that max hits is broken for the ranger tower for its explosion. So this total DPS of 250 is slightly inaccurate for the ranger. The Rocketeer tower apparently has not received an update in this update. I'm not sure how much I'll believe of that, given the fact that the rate of fire bug fix has happened and the Rocketeer doesn't really have a fast firing level, maybe level 3, which is 2.75. Maybe it is the case where the Rocketeer tower hasn't changed. I have heard from Nim though that this is quite good in hardcore mode because of its hidden and lead detection, so maybe it's something to use. Next, the Saboteur tower apparently hasn't changed either, which is very interesting because it does have a fast firing level, that being all levels really. So I wonder if the Saboteur tower was balanced with the rate of fire bug in mind. And when I mean in mind, I mean it being fixed. I'm sure there's probably some shadow changes to the Saboteur tower which the developers haven't told us about. And then finally, for the Scout tower, the developers have actually changed this, but only slightly. So at level 3 is where the first changes occur. Apparently the Scout at level 0 has actually been buffed because there's no changes to its fire rate. The fire rate has increased from 0.6 to 0.65, and at level 4, the fire rate has increased from 0.3 to 0.325. So these changes are evidently with the rate of fire bug in mind. Next, the Sledger tower has received some changes. Not at level 0, no changes there. At level 1, the damage has decreased from 15 to 14. At level 2, the same damage decrease. At level 3, the damage has decreased from 25 to 24. And at level 4, the damage has decreased from 40 to 38. So evidently, these changes were with the rate of fire bug in mind, although no changes at level 0. But unlike the Accelerator tower, it does keep its freeze immunity and its stun immunity, which in this update, they've actually changed it when you select it here. So instead of saying no freeze detection, I think it was called, it now says freeze immunity and stun immunity, which is good. Next, for the Slime Trooper tower, there is no changes to this. So I think that the Slime Trooper was balanced with the rate of fire bug fix in mind. So I guess that's good. Now, interestingly, I wouldn't have thought that the sniper would have changed because the rate of fire bug doesn't really affect the sniper all too much. But it looks like the developers have changed some aspects for the sniper tower, which is an amount to a rebalance. So, at level 0, the range has increased from 25 to 28. At level 2, the range has increased from 28 to 30. At level 3, the upgrade cost has decreased from 2,250 to 2,000. And at level 4, the upgrade cost has increased from 4,500 to 5,000. The fire rate has decreased from 3.5 to 3.2, and the range has increased from 40 to 45. So I think these are just changes to make sure that the sniper tower isn't seen as a really bad tower to use, and we should always use the scout tower. I don't know if this makes the sniper tower good. I just think that if there is a cliff tower that's optimally placed and you don't have anyone with the ranger tower, maybe the sniper tower could be viable. I wouldn't say so though. Although it does have lead detection and flying detection. It has flying detection from level 0, it gets hidden detection at level 2, and then it gets lead detection at level 3. Could this possibly be a way to counteract the void floaters in hardcore mode? Because it is a relatively cheap tower to place down. I wouldn't say its DPS is anything to gawk at, 31.25, but it is a cheap tower to place down. I will also mention that in this update, all cliff towers now gain stun immunity in their settings, as you can see here. Now, this doesn't really affect cliff towers all too much because before this update, they always had stun immunity despite it not showing up here. However, it does mean that enemies are no longer able to target the cliff towers anymore. Previously, the sniper and the ranger towers could effectively be used to stall something like the Vindicator or the Void Reaver because they will be able to target the ranger and the sniper tower, but nothing will come of it. However, now they won't be able to be stalled by these towers because they have stun immunity. Next, we have the soldier, and very obviously there are some changes to this so that it doesn't become too OP with the rate of fire bug. So, firstly, the burst cooldown has increased from 0.55 to 0.5, but the fire rate has increased from 0.15 to 0.175. At level 1, the upgrade cost has increased from 50 to 100, the burst cooldown has decreased from 0.55 to 0.4, and the fire rate has increased from 0.125 to 0.15. At level 2, the upgrade cost has increased from 650 to 700. The burst cooldown has decreased from 0.55 to 0.4, and the fire rate has increased from 0.125 to 0.15. At level 3, the upgrade cost has increased from 1,350 to 1,850, and the fire rate has increased from 0.125 to 0.15, and the damage has increased from 3 to 4. And at level 4, the upgrade cost has increased from 5,000 to 6,000, the cooldown has increased from 0.125 to 0.15, and the damage has increased from 8 to 10. A slight rebalance to the soldier, dare I say, maybe slightly better towards level 3 and level 4 for a more expensive cost, but the other changes I expect are due to the rate of fire bug fix. Then we have changes to the Spotlight Technician. So at level 0, 1 and 2, the fire rate has increased from 0.3 to 0.325, that's to be expected. Meanwhile, at level 3 and level 4, the damage has decreased. So at level 3, it's decreased from 12 to 10, and at level 4, it's decreased from 15 to 14. Again, that is to be expected because of the rate of fire bug fix, and as mentioned for the Sniper Tower, it now has stun immunity innately. Also, not to alert anyone or anything, but the Spotlight Technician does have all 3 immunities detections at level 2, and at level 2 I believe it can also expose hidden enemies, so just saying, could be a possibility in hardcore mode or void core mode. Meanwhile, apparently the Swarmer Tower hasn't had a change in this update, which might be surprising given the fact that its statistics, it does say that it does have a very quick fire rate. Although the DPS for this is, well, it's kind of busted. It says Sting DPS is 5.33, but it doesn't account for the fact that you can stack the Sting DPS. So yeah, do bear that in mind. Next, we have the Toxic Gunner. So, at level 0, the fire rate has increased from 0.1 to 0.12. At level 3, the poison damage has decreased from 4 to 3. The fire rate has increased from 0.1 to 0.12, so evidently the 0.12 fire rate applies to level 1 and 2 as well. And at level 4, the fire rate, interestingly, has decreased from 0.135 to 0.12, and the damage has decreased from 11 to 8. So these changes are with the rate of fire bug in mind. The Trapper Tower has received quite a fair bit of changes, so, you know, a lot of changes made to the Trapper Tower means that it's probably a rebalance instead of a rate of fire bug fix, which the Trapper Tower doesn't really support on anyways because of the way that it works. So, at level 0, the maximum amount of traps has increased from 4 to 6. The trap lifespan has decreased from 75 to 25. That, I think, is fair enough. It means that the traps can be replenished at a quicker rate. Doesn't really affect the Trapper Tower all too much. The trap's spike cooldown, interestingly, has decreased from 5.25 to 4. Again, you can replenish them quite quickly. And the fire rate has decreased from 5.25 to 4. I don't know why there's 2 separate fire rate statistics. At level 1, the maximum amount of traps has increased from 5 to 6. The fire rate has also decreased from 5 to 4. And at level 2, the maximum amount of traps has increased from 6 to 7. And when it comes to the landmines, the burn damage has increased from 3 to 5. The tick has decreased from 1 to 0.25, and the fire rate has decreased from 5 to 4. As for the spikes, the fire rate has decreased from 5 to 4, and the amount of health that they have has increased from 60 to 75. At level 3, the upgrade cost has increased from 5,000 to 6,000. The maximum amount of traps has increased from 7 to 9. The landmine burn damage has decreased from 5 to 3, which, that's interesting. So the landmines at level 2 deal more damage in terms of burn damage than level 3. Okay. But the fire rate has decreased from 4 to 3, and the damage itself from the landmine has increased from 80 to 100. So I guess that's fair for decreasing the fire damage. You know, I was about to think that was weird until you actually look at the statistics themselves on the DPS. So it's 12.5 regular DPS, and burn DPS is 20 at level 2, but then at level 3, it then swaps to more default DPS and less burn DPS. Find that slightly weird, but okay, fair enough. Okay, developers. And then if you go to spikes, you'll notice that the DPS is just 15. Obviously, when it comes to the Trapper Tower, DPS is slightly weird in regards. So for spikes, the cooldown has decreased from 5 to 3. The damage has increased from 40 to 45. The health, though, has decreased from 280 to 225, and the overall fire rate has decreased from 4 to 3. It looks like the fire rate is now universal. I would be willing to say that it's universal for everything apart from bear traps at max level. At max level, by the way, the upgrade cost has decreased from 13,500 to 11,500. The max amount of traps has increased from 9 to 13. That's pretty good. It does look like fire rate is universal amongst all traps for the Trapper Tower. It's not like there's differing fire rates or anything, so it's 2.5 at this level. The bear trap damage has decreased from 350 to 325. That's fair enough because the max amount of traps has increased. The burn damage from the landmines has decreased from 7 to 4. So interestingly, at max level, the amount of burn DPS is less than that at level 2. Right, okay, makes sense. But the landmine damage has increased from 140 to 160. The spike cooldown has decreased from 4.5 to 2.5. Damage has increased from 60 to 65. And the health has decreased from 600 to 325. And all of these changes are to account for the Trapper Tower having more traps. So individually, actually, I think the traps might have slightly less power. But the Trapper Tower, I think overall, especially if you can build a lot of traps, the Trapper Tower has been buffed, in my opinion. You may disagree with me on that, though. Now then, as for the Turret Tower, there have been some changes. So the price has decreased from 8,750 to 7,750. For this, the damage has decreased from 24 to 20, and the range has increased from 18 to 19. But this is counteracted by level 1 changes, which the turret has increased in price from 2,750 to 3,750. The damage has decreased from 30 to 28, but the range has increased from 18 to 19. These changes from now on look like they're for the rate of fire bug fix. So at level 2, damage has decreased from 30 to 28. At level 3, damage has decreased from 40 to 35. At level 4, damage has decreased from 65 to 57. And at level 5, the damage has decreased from 78 to 62. It doesn't look like there are changes to the Warden Tower, despite the fact that it does have a fast fire rate, and the fact that it can actually stun enemies. Now, in this update, stunning towers have received some changes, so it does surprise me that the Warden Tower, at least on the update log, it doesn't look like they've changed anything about the stunning abilities from the Warden Tower, nor any changes to its fire rate. Maybe it was balanced with the rate of fire bug fix in mind, but I can't really think that's true. It does actually look like it does stun enemies for quite a long period of time, so I don't know, maybe untapped potential with the Warden Tower, the Warlock Tower, and the update log officially states only one change, and that is the level 5 damage decreasing from 260 to 250. Now, there is actually still a bug with the Warlock Tower where I think the range damage is still actually closer to 1000 because I think the melee attack damage is applied to the range attack damage. So I think the developers still don't know about the Warlock Tower bug where it deals way more DPS than it's meant to, but let's keep that on the lowdown so they don't actually fix it. The towers that have freeze or stun have changed quite a fair bit since the Hardcore Rework update. And the reason for this is because many game modes in Tower Defense Simulator have been reworked of sorts, and not really reworked, I would say actually, more so the enemies within them have changed. So usually within game mode, a lot of enemies will spawn in with stun immunity and freeze immunity to counteract the stunning effects and the freezing effects that could be applied from towers. Not every single late game enemy had freeze or stun immunity, but a lot of them did. However, the developers have removed stun immunity and freeze immunity from a lot of the late game enemies. Of course, the first enemy I spawned in still has its stun immunity, as you can see with the Fallen Giant. And so does the Giant Boss. Okay, surely the Hazmat has lost its stun immunity and freeze immunity. No, it hasn't. What? Has any enemy actually lost its freeze or stun immunity? So let's see. Elite Hazmat hasn't, Fallen Hazmat hasn't, Elite, none of these has. The Hazardous hasn't either. Okay, surely the Fallen Shield has changed that as well. Surely. So the Fallen Shield here, okay, so it has no stun. Okay, it doesn't have freeze immunity though anymore. Okay, I know for a fact that the Clown has lost its freeze and stun immunity as well, so it's not a complete loss. Some enemies have had their stun and freeze immunity removed. What about the Tanker? Nope, it still has no stun and no freeze. What about the Molten Summoner? Nope, it still has its no freeze and no burn. What about the Fallen Summoner? Does it have, yeah, it does. Oh, it doesn't have its no freeze. It does have no stun though. What about something like the Bullock? Does it still have a no freeze and no stun? Well, it has no stun still. Okay, what about something like the Shotgunner enemy, not the Shotgunner Tower? Oh, that has no stun and no freeze. Surely the regular Fallen doesn't have no stun and no freeze anymore. Yes, it doesn't. Okay, so the developers have changed some aspects. Although, again, it does seem like most of the heavy-hitting enemies, such as the Fallen Giant, Giant Boss, and the Fallen Shield, some of them may have had their no freeze removed, but their no stun remains in place. But I guess when it comes to something like the Clown enemy and the Fallen enemies, they've had their no stun removed. So in general, I estimate about 20% of enemies in Tower Defense Simulator have lost their no stun, and about 40% of enemies have lost their no freeze. This doesn't apply to bosses, by the way. They still have their boss immunity, which makes them immune to literally everything that slows enemies down. So disregard that for bosses. I had thought it would be for more enemies. So, for example, I would have expected something like the Bullock or the Molten Summoner to have lost their no stun and no freeze, because the game is now balanced on the fact that freezing and stunning towers, they are now far weaker for the most part, and the effects of the freeze or the stun have been reduced for the most part as well. I wouldn't say it's the general rule throughout, because some towers haven't had their change made to them. So we start off with the Archer Tower, and the Archer Tower is actually a tower that's not had much change with its stunning ability. The stun arrows from the Archer Tower, they stun for 0.15 seconds, which it was the case previous to this update. So I'll be honest, the changes made to the Archer Tower even before this update, the shocking arrows, they weren't that useful. But given the fact that most of the other towers that have stun abilities have had their stun effectively been nerfed quite a fair bit, I think the Archer Tower does come to its own somewhat. So the first tower alphabetically to receive some major changes, that is either a freezing tower or a stunning tower, is the Cryomancer Tower. And as you can see, its animations are actually broken. As you can see here, the Cryomancer isn't focusing on the enemy that is actually attacking. Great job. I mean, I'll be honest, it's not a change exclusive to the Cryomancer. A lot of other towers have had their animations break in this update as well. So, for the Cryomancer, at level 0, the defense melt has decreased from 10 to 5. The freeze time has decreased from 2 to 0.75. So yeah, major changes to the freezing of the Cryomancer. The maximum slowness has decreased from 50% to 15%. That's the chill effect. The slow percentage, though, has increased from 5 to 7.5, so that's the amount of chillness that is applied per shot, so I guess it can reach the 15% a lot quicker in comparison to the 50 compared to when it had 5 slow percentage. The tick rate has increased from 0.25 to 1, so it'll take longer, I guess, for the Cryomancer to actually freeze or even slow down enemies. The maximum ammo has decreased from 40 to 25, but the placement cost has decreased from 300 to 250, and the range has increased from 10 to 11. So do bear in mind that the Cryomancer can't actually damage any enemies at this level. It can only really freeze towers or slow them down. And as you can see here, it doesn't really even slow them down too much. I guess what the developers have also done is they've removed a lot of the variable enemies which have spawned in with stun immunity and freeze immunity in the past and just like removed it. So I guess that's fine. Meanwhile, as for level 1, the developers have decreased the cost of the Cryomancer from 250 to 200. The debuff length has apparently increased from 2 to 3. The maximum slowness has decreased from 65% to 20%. So previously, the Cryomancer could actually be very good against enemies that didn't have no freeze, but now it's far less so. Like, these enemies would be grinding to a halt, whereas now they are actually quite fast. The maximum ammo has decreased from 50 to 25, and the range has increased from 12 to 13.5. Meanwhile, as for level 2, the damage has increased here from 1 to 3. This is the chill DPS that the Cryomancer applies towards enemies. The defense melt has decreased from 10 to 7, the debuff length has increased from 2 to 3, but the maximum ammo has decreased from 80 to 50. Then, as for level 4, the upgrade cost has decreased from 4,000 to 2,750. The debuff damage has increased from 1 to 5. The debuff length has decreased from 6 to 5. The maximum hits has increased from 3 to 4. The maximum slowness percentage has decreased from 65% to 25%. The slow percentage, though, per shot has increased from 10 to 12.5. And the damage for the Cryomancer, interestingly, has increased from 1 to 3. And then finally, at level 4, the upgrade cost has decreased from 9,500 to 6,250. The debuff damage has increased from 3 to 10. The maximum slowness percent has decreased from 75% to 25%. The reload time has decreased from 2 to 1.25. The width, why is there a width? What is width? Oh, the width of the frost beam. So it's increased from 2 to 2.25. And the damage for the Cryomancer has increased from 2 to 6. So overall, there's actually damage DPS changes to the Cryomancer, which makes it DPS better. But that's not what people were using the Cryomancer for. People were using the Cryomancer for a very good freezing horde tower, and with this, I mean, at max level, it's kind of decent if you have a lot of Cryomancers placed down, and it is a cheap freezing tower to place down. As you can see here, it only costs 10,385. But I will say that the Cryomancer, certainly compared to what it was previously, it can slow down a lot less enemies and a lot less effectively. Although again, do bear in mind that some enemies, like the Fallen, have had their no freeze removed, but if an enemy still has no freeze, such as the Fallen Hazmat, then yeah, I guess the Cryomancer is slightly more useful against these enemies because it can deal some damage towards them, but not a whole lot, especially for something like a Fallen Necromancer, which has a high amount of health. Then we have the Electroshocker, and major changes inbound when it comes to the Electroshocker, obviously being seen as a primarily stunning tower. So at level 0, the chain range has increased from 7 to 10. Defense melt has decreased from 5 to 0. The maximum amount of hits has increased from 1 to 2. Okay, I kind of like that. The maximum stun has actually increased, interestingly, from 0.05 to 0.1. And the minimum stun has increased as well. I think that is referring to the amount of stunning time that an enemy can be applied with. So that's actually increased. Interesting. The fire rate has increased from 0.75 to 1.35. The damage has increased from 2 to 4. The limit actually for the Electroshocker has decreased from 10 to 7. The price has increased from 375 to 650. And the range has increased from 11 to 10. At level 1, the cost has increased from 200 to 275. The chain range has increased from 7 to 10. There is no defense melt anymore at this level. The maximum amount of hits has increased to 2. The stun has both minimum and maximum is the same at 0.1. The reason why I think there's a maximum and a minimum stated is because previously the Electroshocker would stun based on the size of the enemy. The bigger the enemy, the less stun that enemy would receive, and the smaller the enemy, the more stun that it would receive. Although it looks like now it doesn't matter the size of the enemy. The fire rate has increased from 0.75 to 1.15. The damage has increased from 3 to 6, but the range has decreased from 12.5 to 12. At level 2, the upgrade cost has increased from 700 to 950. The chain range has increased from 7 to 10. Defense melt has been removed at this level. The maximum amount of hits has increased from 1 to 3. The stun has increased from 0.08 to 0.1. The fire rate has increased from 0.65 to 1.15. The damage has increased from 6 to 8, and the range has increased from 12.5 to 13. At level 3, the upgrade cost has decreased from 2,500 to 2,400. Chain range has actually increased from 7 to 15. Defense melt has been removed at this level. Max hits has increased from 2 to 3. The stun has actually increased from 0.08 to 0.1. The fire rate has increased from 0.65 to 1.15. Damage has increased from 12 to 22. And the range has increased from 12.5 to 13. So interesting that they've actually given back a lot of the DPS to the Electroshocker Tower. I wouldn't have expected that. Nor would I have expected, actually, the Electroshocker Tower to have been buffed in regards to the stunning time that it gets. Maybe the developers realised that the early game Electroshocker Tower nobody was using. Absolutely not. Although with that being said, now it is a decent DPS tower-wise, so maybe there will be some strategies that use the Tesla Tower, especially if in solo mode you need to slow down some enemies, but you also need to deal some DPS. Then at level 4, the upgrade cost has decreased from 6,350 to 4,000. Chain range has increased from 10 to 15. Defense melt has been removed at this level. Maximum amount of hits has increased from 2 to 4. The stun actually at this level has decreased slightly from 0.18 to 0.15. The fire rate has increased from 2.25 to 2.5. Damage has decreased from 115 to 70, and the range has decreased from 16 to 13. So there's less of a gap between level 3 and level 4, as stated previously. So I think level 4 was seen as a more DPS-oriented Electroshocker Tower, which could hit multiple enemies, whereas the first Electroshocker Tower was seen as a single target tower. Now it's sort of blended together. And then at level 5, major changes here. So the upgrade cost has decreased from 16,935 to 10,000. Chain range has increased from 10 to 20, so it has a relatively large chain range, so it could hit a lot of enemies. The defense melt has decreased from 25 to 20%, although I don't see that as much of an issue given the fact that I think the Electroshocker is limited to about 10% defense melt of the enemy in question. The maximum amount of hits has increased from 3 to 6. The maximum stun and the minimum stun has decreased from 0.3 to 0.25, so I don't see that as such a major change. The fire rate has increased from 2.25 to 2.5, the damage has decreased from 200 to 100, and the range has decreased from 17 to 15. So, at level 5, the Electroshocker Tower is less of a DPS-oriented tower, and I would argue more of a stunning tower, especially with its large chain range. You can also hit a lot more enemies, which is what the Electroshocker had before the Tesla Tower was added to Tower Defense Simulator. So maybe the developers are bringing the glory days back to the Electroshocker, realizing that after the Tesla Tower was updated, no one was using the Electroshocker Tower. So I think these changes are good for the Electroshocker Tower. Next is the Elementalist Tower, and I've heard that they've absolutely gutted the Elementalist Tower. So officially at level 0, the frost debuff has decreased from 45% to 10%, and the percentage per shot has decreased from 5 to 2%. At level 1, this has decreased from 45% to 10% in max slow, and the slow percent per shot has decreased from 7.5 to just 2.5. At level 2, the maximum slowness has decreased from 50% to just 15%, and the slowness percent per shot has decreased from 7.5 to 2.5. At level 3, the maximum slowness has decreased from 50% to 15%. The percentage per shot has decreased from 10 to 5%. The heatwave burn damage, interestingly, all of these changes have been to frost mode, but at level 3 there is actually a change to the heatwave ability, which is this. That has decreased from 15 to 14, and the damage overall for the Elementalist Tower has decreased from 13 to 12. So the last two changes, they are probably made in regards to the rate of firebug. Not so sure about the heatwave burn damage. I think that just might be a slight decrease in damage overall. And then finally, at max level, the damage for the Elementalist Tower has decreased from 18 to 16. The maximum slowness effect has decreased from 60% to 20%, and the slow percent per hit has decreased from 12.5 to 5%, and the heatwave burn damage has decreased from 20 to 18. However, when it comes to the ice turrets, there have been some changes to it as well. So the slow percentage for the ice turrets has decreased from 50% to 15%, and the slow percentage has decreased from 25 to 2.5, so a 90% reduction. At the level 3 Elementalist Tower, ice turrets receive the same treatment as the level 2 Elementalist Tower, except the slow percent per hit has decreased from 25 to 5%. And at level 4, the ice turret treatment here, it's decreased from 60% to 20% for max slowness. The slow percent has decreased from 30 to 5%, and the damage has decreased from 30 to 28, although the damage decrease is probably due to the rate of firebug more than anything else. Also, notice how when an enemy is frozen, it no longer forms a cube, a translucent cube. It now seems as if it forms a ice sculpture around the enemy itself, as you can see here. However, with that being said, it does look like the permafreeze glitch with the Elementalist Tower is still here to stay, as you can see here. So I wouldn't say that it's completely being gutted, the Elementalist Tower, since you can permanently freeze something like the Brute, as you can see here. I'm not sure how the developers didn't manage to catch this one when they were reworking the Elementalist Tower, because this glitch has definitely been here for like a year. Not to say that the Brute is completely immune, as you can see here, it does still have its ability to throw, but the Brute here will just remain stuck like this forever until maybe I sell the Elementalist Tower. So let's sell the Elementalist Tower and see if the Brute ever gets unstuck. So let's timescale this to 100. And okay, yeah, so eventually the brute does get timescaled out of it. But it still looks like it got stunned for quite a long period of time. And then we have changes to the freezer tower, the first tower that you think of when you think of freeze. So the debuff length has decreased from 5 to 2. The maximum slowness percent has decreased from 50 to 15. The slow percent per hit has decreased from 10 to 7.5. The tick rate has increased from 0.25 to 1, so that's the slowness tick rate. The fire rate has increased from 0.5 to 0.55. Damage has increased from 1 to 2. Not so sure about that. I guess DPS-wise, it can be quite decent. And the price, though, has increased from 425 to 450. Meanwhile, at level 1, the cost has increased from 225 to 300. The maximum slowness has decreased from 60% to 20%. The percent per hit has decreased from 15% to 10%. And the fire rate has decreased from 0.5 to 0.35. So again, DPS has increased for the freezer tower at this level, interestingly. At level 2, the upgrade cost has decreased from 650 to 450. The freeze time has decreased from 2 to 0.5. The slow has actually been added here, so the maximum slowness that the freezer can apply here is 20. Although the update log seems like this is incorrect, so I feel like I need to make a correction video later on when I'm talking about all of the shadow updates. The slow percent has decreased from 20 to 10. The tick rate apparently has increased by 1. I don't think that's accurate inside the update log. The fire rate has apparently increased to 0.35. No, it's not. It's 0.35 now. Okay, that's weird. And the damage has increased from 2 to 3. At level 3, the freezer tower's upgrade cost has decreased from 2,000 to 1,700. Burst has increased from 3 to 5. The burst cooldown has decreased from 0.75 to 0.6. The debuff damage has apparently increased to 3, I would believe. The debuff length has increased to 3. This is wrong, right? Surely. So I was right that the chill damage is now 3. The tick rate is 1 second. The debuff length is now 3 seconds. The freeze time has decreased from 2.5 to 0.5. The maximum slowness has decreased from 75% to 25%. And the slow percent per shot has decreased from 25 to 12.5 per shot. And the damage has increased from 3 to 4. And then finally, at max level, the burst has increased from 6 to 7. The debuff damage has increased to 5. Previously, I think it was 0. The freeze time has decreased from 3 to 0.75. And the max slow is now 25. Damage has increased from 5 to 9. So it seems like they've made the freeze tower less of a freezing tower and more of a DPS tower, which I guess is very interesting. It is a relatively cheap tower to place down. It does still have the Frost Grenade ability, although the Frost Grenade ability, I don't think many people are using it, given the fact that it can only hit up to 3 enemies. I mean, cost efficiency wise, you are looking at a pretty good 182 at max level, and at the previous levels you're looking at like 120, 150, which is like golden level standards. And there is a slight bonus of the freezing ability, which granted doesn't apply to boss enemies or freezing enemies that have freeze immunity, but I feel like that's kind of interesting, and I feel like the freezer tower should be talked about a little bit more given these changes to its DPS. Then we have the changes to the Frost Blaster, and yeah, the developers realized that the Frost Blaster was so OP that they actually gutted it in a later update. I'm going to talk about the changes that they made in the Hardcore Rework update, and I'll add to the fact that they've actually changed like the freeze times and the chill times, and even at max level they changed the damage, the range, and the fact that it no longer has flying abilities at max level for the Frost Blaster. So in the Hardcore Rework update, the debuff length decreased from 0.45 to 0.2. Freeze time decreased from 0.45 to 0.2 as well. Maximum slow has decreased from 50% to 30%. Slow percent decreased from 50% to 30%. The fire rate increased from 0.6 to 0.8, but the damage has increased from 3 to 4. And the amount of Frost Blast that you can place down has decreased from 14 to 12. At level 1, the debuff length and the freeze time decreased from 0.6 to 0.3. The fire rate has increased from 0.5 to 0.6, and the damage has increased from 3 to 4. Do bear in mind that the slow percent from level 1 and level 2, they've changed to 15%. Basically, they've halved it since the Hardcore Rework update because they realized that the Frost Blaster was a little bit too OP. And then at level 2, the upgrade cost has decreased from 1,350 to 1,250, but it looks like they've increased it, or it's a shadow update that the update log manages to get wrong. So yeah, do bear that in mind. The maximum slowness has decreased from 75 to 45%, although they've changed that further to now just being 25%, same for the slow percentage. But the damage was increased from 6 to 8. At level 3, the upgrade cost increased from 3,200 to 3,800. The fire rate increased from 0.3 to 0.45, but the damage increased from 8 to 12. So the Frost Blaster deals slightly more DPS. And then at level 4, the upgrade cost increased from 8,500 to 9,500. Debuff length halved from 1.5 seconds to 1.75 seconds, although that's even decreased now to 0.6. The freeze time also decreased by the same amount, but that's also to 0.6 now. And the damage was increased from 53 to 66, but they reverted that back down to 53 from before the Hardcore Rework update. So the Frost Blaster was a very good tower to use, especially DPS-wise, because it could see flying enemies, which was the main counter for the Void Floaters. But now, it can't see flying enemies, which is a major bummer, and the Frost Blaster is seen as a regular run-of-the-mill freezer now. A slightly more powerful freezer, granted, that can hit multiple enemies, but the max hits has decreased by 1 at each level. Now, in this update, the developers have not changed the Jester Tower, interestingly. So, there are 2 bombs which cause some sort of slowdown. That's the Ice and the Confusion bombs. Now, when it comes to the Ice bombs, it doesn't look like they've changed all too much. And it does look like, at a very cheap cost, the Jester Tower might have a higher max slowness in comparison to something like the Frost Blaster or even the Freezer. And apparently the chill duration is 3 seconds, which interestingly is quite long for the Jester Tower. However, I think it's worth a mention that I'm not sure if the Jester Tower can actually freeze any enemies. It doesn't look like so from the testing that I can see so far. The slowness effects that come from the Jester are just that, they're chill rather than freeze. But given the fact that all of the other freezing towers seemingly have been nerfed in this update, I guess the Jester's freezing bombs, they're on par with the other freezing towers in Tower Defense Simulator now. The Jester Tower might be an okay freezing tower from now on. And then we have the Sledger Tower, and yeah, many people also say that they've gutted this tower as well. So with the Sledger Tower at level 0, the maximum amount of hits has increased from 2 to 3, but the maximum slowness has decreased from 45% to 30%. It's still quite a high slowness though. Slow percent has decreased from 15 to 10, so you'll need multiple sledges to actually achieve the max slowness. Damage has increased from 8 to 10. At level 2, the slow percentage has decreased from 25 to 15, and the damage has increased from 12 to 14. So again, it seems like the developers are removing the freezing capabilities of the freezing towers by a significant degree, but then they're adding damage to compensate for this. At level 2, the freeze time decreases from 1.5 to 0.75. And the damage, interestingly, has increased from 25 to 28. So at level 3, the max slowness has decreased from 60% to 35%. The slow percent has decreased from 30% to 17.5%. So that's the percentage slowness that's applied per hit from the Sledger Tower. The damage has also increased from 45 to 50. At level 4, the max slowness has decreased from 65 to 35. The slow percent per shot has decreased from 45 to 17.5. The damage has increased from 75 to 100. And then for level 5, there's changes to the Aftershock defense melt, which is called Molt, interestingly, in the update log, so that's just a typo. So that's increased from 0.2 to 0.3. The debuff length has decreased from 6 to 5. The freeze time has decreased from 1.75 to 1. I still consider that to be quite high, even though it looks like the freeze length here, it doesn't look like 1. The max hits has increased from 6 to 7. The max slowness has decreased from 80% to 35%. Slow percent has also decreased by the same amount, and the damage has increased from 140 to 150. So I'm not sure how I feel about these Sledger changes. It doesn't look like the Sledger Tower is useful until level 5. And even at level 5, yeah, sure, it can hit a lot of enemies, and deal a lot of damage, interestingly enough, but it doesn't have that vibe of the Sledger Tower from when it was first added in 2021. So yeah, I slightly agree with the fact that they've gutted the Sledger Tower. Don't really foresee people using it, and I'm not sure about the freeze time being 1 second. It doesn't seem like that. Definitely not. I wonder if in the update log it actually mentions, yeah, it still says 1 second and 0.75 seconds at the previous. It doesn't feel like that. Maybe it's the size of the enemy, but I don't think they've had that in the game for a while now. And then we have changes to the Snowballer Tower. And interestingly, I've been told very good things actually about the Snowballer Tower in this update. In fact, there have been some shadow changes to the Snowballer Tower, which I am inclined to talk about outside of this video, which would be very, very interesting. So now the Snowballer Tower actually has an explosion radius. Interesting. So it's increased from 2 to 5. I didn't even know that the Snowballer Tower had an explosion radius at level 0 in the first place. But that's because the maximum amount of hits that it could have has increased from 1 to 2. So it can hit like multiple enemies at this level now. The max slow has decreased from 30% to 20%. The slow percent has decreased from 15% to 10%. So that's the slowness per hit. The fire rate has decreased from 2.25 to just 1.5. Okay, that's quite good. But the damage has decreased from 4 to 3. Okay, so that makes more sense. And the price has increased from 250 to 300. So DPS is 2, quite decent. And the range has increased from 11 to 15. Dare I say it, the Snowballer Tower at level 0 could be a very good tower to just like mass spam. Like that, like $300 to place down a DPS of 2? That's quite good, is it not? And then at level 1, the cost has decreased from 75 to 50, making it one of the cheapest upgrades in Tower Defense Simulator now. The max slow has decreased from 40% to 20%. Okay, fair enough. The slow percent has also decreased from 20% to 10%. That's the slowness per hit from the Snowballer Tower. The fire rate decreased from 2 to 1.35. Damage has decreased from 5 to 3. The range, though, has increased from 13 to 17.5. So 2.22 DPS. Is the Snowballer Tower actually good now? Holy shit. Hold on. Let me just spam, like, level 1 Snowballer Towers. Genuinely, ignore the Juggernaut at the back. That's just for safety insurance. But, like, genuinely, the Snowballer Tower might be good. Hold on. Fallen Squad. Oh, my God. The Snowballer Tower actually is good. This is insane. Oh, this needs to be his like own separate video. I might make a separate video about the Snowballer Tower just becoming like very good all of a sudden. Like, Jesus Christ, this is good. At level 2, the upgrade cost has decreased from 375 to 320. Debuff length has decreased from 4 to 3. Maximum slow has decreased from 60% to 30%. Slow percent has decreased from 30% to 15%. Fire rates decreased from 2 to 1.35. Damage has decreased from 10 to 6. The range has decreased from 15 to 17.5. Okay, but like, seriously, why is this so good? What? I never expected the Snowballer Tower ever to actually be good. Oh, apart from the fact they can't see hidden enemies. Okay, it does have one downside, but I will say, at max level, can see flying enemies, and does have lead, so is it a possibility that this Snowballer Tower could be used in Void Core to get rid of the lead and the flying enemies? No way. Surely not. So at level 3, the upgrade cost has increased from 1,650 to 3,000. Okay, that's fair enough. The explosion radius has increased from 4 to 5. The freeze time has decreased from 2 to 0.6. The max hits has decreased from 4 to 3. The slowness, max slow, has been increased from 0 to 30. So there's now slowness. I didn't know that. What's the max slow? I thought max slow was already applied at level 3, unless it was only the freeze that was applied. Okay, fair enough. Slow percent has decreased from 30% to 15%. Fire rate has decreased from 1.75 to 1.25, and the range has decreased from 21 to just 20. Okay, but like low-key, getting to level 2 for the Snowballer Tower genuinely could be quite good. 4.44 DPS for 670 cost, plus the added benefit of slowing it down slightly. Is this what the Freezer Tower was meant to be? Genuinely, I'm thinking that the Snowballer Tower might be one of the best early game towers in Tower Defense Simulator. Like, sure, its late game utility, not that good. Like 3,670, it's not too good, and it is struggling a tiny bit, I would say, against the Fallen Giant. But the fact that the Snowballer Tower has been buffed so that it can actually deal damage to the Fallen Giant rather than just rolling over and doing absolutely nothing, I think the Snowballer Tower genuinely is the best early game tower maybe in Tower Defense Simulator. Like, it is frustrating to use since it's not like a quick speedrunning tower, but I will say that maybe it's a decent early game tower. Is it? I need to do more testing with this because it's getting quite far in Fallen mode, wave 17. Maybe it's just because the Snowballer Tower has been shit all this time and the developers have buffed it now so that it's genuinely usable. Snowballer Tower, we may have underestimated you. And then interestingly, for the Tesla Tower, the developers have not changed this at all. So the upgrade shock, all of that's remained the same. So I think maybe the rebalances to the Tesla Tower in previous updates were with the future changes in mind when it came to enemies getting their no stun and no freeze removed. So yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, the shock time was only 0.3 seconds anyways at max level. It's just that maybe the Tesla Tower is firing at a slightly fast fire rate because of the rate of fire bug fix, to the point where maybe the developers are going to consider nerfing it. Hopefully not, but the Tesla Tower officially has received no changes apart from the rate of fire bug fix in this update. And the same can be said for the Warden Tower. I know I've talked about it in the main video, but the Warden Tower genuinely feels like it could be the best stunning tower in Tower Defense Simulator because it does stun enemies for quite a long period of time. Maybe the Warden Tower is going to become one of its own, the Golden Cowboy. Now, much like its brother, the regular Cowboy, the Golden Cowboy has received a significant rebalance in this update that cannot be accounted for just by the rate of fire bug fix. So, in this update, the Golden Cowboy placement limit has increased from 6 to 12. That's very good. But as you may know, for the regular Cowboy, the developers have had to nerf the Golden Cowboy on a per unit basis so that each individual Cowboy is weaker, but then the total sum of the Cowboys, that's 12 of them, is about on par as it was previously, or even slightly better. So for this, the spin duration has increased from 1.75 to 2. The fire rate has increased from 0.35 to 0.9, but the damage has increased from 2 to 3. The income has increased from 25 to 35. The limit has increased from 6 to 12, as mentioned at the start. The price has increased from 550 to 600, but the range has decreased from 15 to 13. Now, this means that the Golden Cowboy does generate less cash per second because of its longer fire rate and the fact that it deals more damage. The fact that it dealt less damage previously but at a faster fire rate meant the Golden Cowboy was generating way more cash than it did previously, even with the income boost from 25 to 35. Again, though, this is to account for the fact that you can spam level 0 Golden Cowboys now, much more than what you could previously, because you could have up to 12 Golden Cowboys. So at level 1, the upgrade cost has decreased from 225 to 200. The spin duration has increased from 1.25 to 1.5. The fire rate has increased from 0.3 to 0.75. Damage has increased from 2 to 3. The income has increased from 25 to 35. And the range has decreased from 17 to 15. At level 2, the upgrade cost has decreased from 900 to 650. The spin duration has increased from 1.25 to 1.5. By the way, the spin duration is green when it's not meant to. An increase in spin duration means that's less time that the Golden Cowboy is attacking and more time that it's uselessly spinning its revolver. I say uselessly, it is generating cash, but it can be 0 and the Golden Cowboy would still be generating cash. And the damage at level 2 has increased from 4 to 5. The income has increased from 50 to 60, but the range has decreased from 17 to 15. So as you can see, getting to a level 2 now, each individual Cowboy to get to this level is actually cheaper than it was previously. So even with the slower fire rates, yes, you're making cash at a slower rate, but I will say that you can generate more cash than you did previously over, let's say, a wave of a game mode, for example. Plus the fact that you can have 12 Cowboys on your map. So I think the Cowboy is more reliable at the cost of raw DPS for each individual Cowboy. Now, at level 3, the cost has decreased from 3,500 to 2,400. The spin duration has increased from 1 to 1.25 seconds. The fire rate has increased from 0.5 to 0.6. Damage has decreased from 15 to 12. income has reduced from 85 to 60, and the range has decreased from 19 to 17.5. So the fire rate and the damage changes, they're probably changes in regards to the rate of fire bug, not necessarily to the Golden Cowboy itself, although the upgrade cost decrease, I think, may have slightly nerfed it slightly. Again, more individual cowboys that you can call upon. At level 4, the upgrade cost has decreased from 5,500 to 4,250. Spin duration increased from 1 to 1.25. Fire rate is increased from 0.25 to 0.3. Damage has decreased from 15 to 12. Income has reduced from 175 to 150. And the range has decreased from 21 to just 20. And then finally, at level 5, the upgrade cost has decreased from 17,000 to a more manageable 9,750. The fire rate has increased from 0.25 to 0.3. Damage has decreased from 35 to 26. The income has reduced from 325 to 225, and the range has decreased from 21 to 20. So from this, evidently, the individual Golden Cowboy is not a late game tower anymore. It's more of a mid game tower, and very definitely, towards the later stages of the game, you should probably sell your Golden Cowboys in return for probably, let's say, the Golden Minigunner, if you have that, or any other better tower than the Golden Cowboy. The only reason why you want to keep the Golden Cowboy around is if you literally have no other tower to place down, which may make sense because there are now 12 of them, but one individual Golden Minigunner, bearing in mind it has no limits, has a DPS of 200, whereas a Golden Cowboy at max level only has a DPS of 72, which is quite poor by max level standards, but it does generate you some cash, so I will give it that. Many people don't like these changes because they've gotten used to the reworked Cowboy from the Shock and Awe update. I'd say I don't mind. It just reverts the Cowboy to what it was before the Shock and Awe update. And honestly, I prefer using that since it does allow me to unlock the usage of other towers rather than using the Golden Cowboy in of itself as a powerful DPS tower. Speaking of which, there have been changes to the Golden Crook boss, but these are rather minimal. So, at level 1, the damage has decreased from 14 to 13. At level 2, damage has decreased from 25 to 24. At level 3, the fire rate is increased from 0.15 to 0.18, and the damage has decreased from 25 to 24. And at level 4, damage has decreased from 50 to 40. So these changes are definitely in regards to the rate of fire bug fix in this update, not any changes to the Crook boss overall. There are also changes to the Tommy Goon. So at max level, the Tommy Goon, that's damage has decreased from 8 to just 6, whereas the Tommy Goon at level 3, the damage here has actually decreased from 6 to just 5, although it still retains its flying detection and hidden detection, so that's very cool. Oh yeah, interestingly, units now show if they have flying detection, as you can see here, which I approve of. Then we have changes to the Golden Minigunner. So, as expected, there are no changes to the Golden Minigunner. Many people thought that the Golden Minigunner may get replaced with the Juggernaut Tower in this update, although as I predicted, the Juggernaut Tower and the Golden Minigunner do coexist. The Golden Minigunner is more of a spammy DPS tower, whereas the Juggernaut Tower is a singular DPS tower. So in solo mode, you may find the Golden Minigunner to be more effective because you can spam the Golden Minigunner in comparison to the Juggernaut Tower. Of course, the Juggernaut Tower only has a limit of 1, which makes it more effective when you have a limited amount of towers to place down in, say, quad mode or trio mode, hardcore mode to be exact. But in solo mode, where you don't have a limit of towers per se, the Golden Minigunner is your best option. So for this, the Golden Minigunner's fire rate has increased from 0.12 to 0.16. The damage has increased from 2 to 3, and the placement cost has increased from 2,000 to 2,400. So a slight rebalance, but also some changes to make sure that the Golden Minigunner isn't too OP with the rate of fire bug fix. At level 1, the upgrade cost has increased from 250 to 1,000. Fire rate has increased from 0.1 to 0.12, and the damage has increased from 2 to 3. At level 2, the upgrade cost has increased from 1,500 to 4,800. The fire rate has increased from 0.1 to 0.12. Damage has increased from 3 to 7, and the range has increased from 19 to 20. At level 3, the upgrade cost has increased from $9,001 to $13,500. The damage has increased from 10 to 13, and the range has increased from 19 to 20. And then finally, at max level, the upgrade cost has increased from 18,624, very oddly specific, to 27,500. The fire rate has increased from 0.09 to 0.1, and the damage has increased from 17 to 20. I'd argue, actually, this makes the changes to the Minigunner better than it was before, because it's a more expensive tower, yes, but do bear in mind that the Golden Minigunner is seen as a late game tower to use. So the fact that it's gotten more powerful means that I think the Golden Minigunner is better than it was previously. Because let's be real, the Golden Minigunner is the thing that you spam, not really for value for money, it's just that you just have all of those towers to like place down. So if in Fallen mode you have a limit of like 50 towers or something, you're probably going to want to occupy that all with Golden Minigunner towers rather than going for a singular DPS tower, which, you know, might be the Juggernaut Tower, yes, but the Golden Minigunner has 200 DPS. About 20 Golden Minigunners do exceed the Juggernaut Tower, although, like I said, you won't be able to place down 20 Golden Minigunners if you're in, say, trio or even a duo match. So from that, the Juggernaut Tower may be better than the Golden Minigunner. It's just that the Golden Minigunner, when it's spammed, can be very good. Obviously, you need a lot of boosts to this, whereas for the Juggernaut Tower, you can apply like one singular medic to it, a commander and a DJ booth, and everything will be fine. And then we have the Golden Pyromancer, and not really many changes here. The only changes really are to its fire rate. So at level 0, the changes to its fire rate has increased from 0.25 fire rate to 0.275 fire rate, and every other single level, the fire rate has changed from 0.15 to 0.175. These changes are made with the rate of fire bug fix in mind, although do bear in mind, again, in the game, it doesn't show this leading 5 at the end. It only rounds to 2 decimal places, despite the fact that the Golden Pyromancer does literally use 3 decimal places as part of its fire rate. As for the scouts, there are no changes officially at level 0, level 1, which means that the scout has received a slight buff in this regard because the developers haven't changed its fire rate. And before the rate of fire bug, obviously nominally the scout's fire rate had increased, whereas now it's slightly decreased. So there is a buff there. So if you use the Golden Scout as like your starting tower, I'd say that it's been buffed slightly. But then, at level 2, the upgrade cost has increased from 600 to 700. At level 3, the upgrade cost has increased from 2,250 to 2,400. Damage has decreased from 35 to 34, and the range has decreased from 18 to 17.5. Again, I think these changes are, relatively speaking, with the rate of fire bug fix in mind, so that's fine. And then at the final level, the upgrade cost has increased from 3,400 to 3,600, damage has decreased from 35 to 34, and range has decreased from 18 to 17.5. No major changes to the Scout Tower, Golden Scout Tower. I think it's just, relatively speaking, to the rate of fire bug fix that the Golden Scout should be compared to. So I think it's a fine tower, and if you used it as your starter tower, I think it's fine. Next, we have the Golden Soldier. And the Golden Soldier, its changes are, relatively speaking, minor because of the rate of fire bug fix. They've just made the Golden Soldier in comparison to what it was previously. So at level 0, the burst cooldown, so that's the burst fire rate, has increased from 0.35 to 0.45. This is the gap between bursts in the Golden Soldier rather than the fire rate between shots in between those bursts. So that's fine. At level 1, this has increased from 0.25 to 0.35. At level 2, the same change as at level 1. And at level 2, the Golden Soldier still receives its full auto. It's just that at level 3, the damage has decreased from 5 to 4. And at level 4, the damage has decreased from 14 to 12. So if you were a Golden Soldier fan previously, you're probably still a Golden Soldier fan now. The only difference being that, is it better than the Golden Scout? And the answer to that is, I don't know, it depends on your playstyle. Many people prefer the Golden Soldier because flying enemies are much more common than lead enemies. But in hardcore mode, lead enemies can be seen as a bit of a pain. Although, that being said, I don't think the lead enemies in the new hardcore mode are that much of a pain in comparison to the, like, void floaters, for example. That's the real pain. But though, fortunately, there is no flying lead enemy anymore. They have removed the lead balloon. It's just that the void floater has a lot of health. So maybe the Golden Soldier is better in that regard. And then the final tower for last is the Golden Snowballer. Yes, in case you didn't know, there is a Golden Snowballer tower in Tower Defense Simulator. It's just that it's hidden from most of the view. but I can prove that it exists because if you were to have like the Golden Scout here, you'll notice that yes, the Golden Snowballer does exist and as an icon here, and it does have some golden perks, so we can see some changes to the Snowballer tower. Unfortunately, I don't have the Golden Snowballer. Unfortunately, the developers don't want to give it to me for whatever reason, which is fine. You know, developers, you can give it to me, and if you say that you can't use it on, let's say, Hardcore or Voidcore or any other map, new map to Tower Defense Simulator, I'd be fine with that. I can abide by rules, I promise you. So the fire rates for the Golden Snowballer, interestingly, has increased in this update from 0.525 to 0.5. Obviously, this is evidently not the Golden Snowballer. It is 1.5 here for the regular Snowballer. And the footprint, interestingly, has decreased. So as you can see here, the regular Snowballer has had a footprint decrease. That isn't mentioned in the update log, by the way. And the Golden Snowballer has inherited this. At level 1, the Golden Snowballer's damage has decreased from 18 to 17. So yes, the developers, in all of their wisdom, are making the Golden Snowballer more compatible with the rate of fire bug fix in this update. I guess that's cool. But at level 2, do you want to know what they did to the damage? They've increased it from 60 to 67. Yeah, the Golden Snowballer at level 2 has 67 damage. No comment. And no changes at level 3. So that's very interesting, I might say. But the one thing about the Golden Snowballer is that it has lost all of its detections. Well, I say all of it, most of its detections. So previously, it used to have, get ready for this, it used to have Splash, Freeze, Stun, Burn, Exposed, Ghost, Tank, Boss, Corpse, God, Aggro, Bloated, Blessed, Nimble, and Slime attributes. But in this update, they've removed all of that to only just Freeze and Stun. It still has Hidden Detection, it still has Lead Detection, and it still has Flying Detection. So it is the ultimate Hardcore tower, but obviously it's restricted to admins only, so most people aren't going to see this.